the local Latino community. In every event and activity, we want to create an atmosphere that is welcoming of all people, regardless of language, socioeconomic status, or legal status. And we want our meetings to have an air of curiosity and sincerity. But most importantly, we want to plan we plan to go where the people are. So instead of asking people to come to us, we are going to come to you. So look out for us. We might just be at your door sometime soon. Next slide. So we turn to you. What are your suggestions for our community engagement plan? Is there anything else you'd like to see? And what other ways do you think we could best serve the community through this engagement? And so we're going to open up the floor.
Allison, this is Doreen. I'll just reiterate. So see if anybody, any of the PAC members or anybody else participating wants to respond to the questions that were posed.
I believe I see Nick
raised his hand. Yeah.
Hi, my name is David Duke. I live about a mile from Oceano, and I have a question regarding when you talk about the community and understanding what the community's needs are. What city are you talking about? I'm wondering is it only related to Oceano City? And I'd give an example that just a few years ago, since I'm a physician and I work for Dignity Health, it wasn't very long ago that we were, because we were thinking of closing Arroyo Grande Hospital because it was small and the two larger hospitals were able to do everything much more efficiently. And so if we did a survey of just the citizens of Arroyo Grande City, the rest of the 5 cities would be deeply affected by a change that went on within the boundaries of Arroyo Grande City. And I think the same is for Oceano. We are called the 5 cities here, and if your neighbor wants to build a Mac mansion in your neighborhood that isn't appropriate next to your house, you're still affected. So I'm wondering exactly what constitutes the people that are being surveyed for the community's needs.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not sure. I could try to answer it and then Kelly could add on, or if there's someone else who wants to answer. But we've talked about this in class a lot, actually, the fact that the community is not, just within its borders, it's outside of it as well. So our primary focus would be on the community of Oceano, but we do hope to have community engagement that invites people from the surrounding cities as well to have their input.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can go ahead and that was great, Allison. I think we talked about this last time, Dr. Duke. We consider anybody who lives in the community as well as uses the community or comes to the community as a stakeholder. And so we're trying to reach those folks. And so one of the things we would really like to know from all of you is, first of all, what locations should we be going to in the community of Oceano to hear from either residents or visitors? And also, where should we be going outside the community of Oceano to both reach residents of Oceano who shop outside the community or who visit other places frequently outside the community, or to find people who tend to be folks who are not necessarily residents but visit the community. So we're looking for suggestions as specific as locations inside the city and inside the community and outside the community, of where we might go, public kinds of spaces where we can encounter a lot of people. For instance, one of the things we generally do is go to grocery stores, and of course we're planning to go to the Central Market once we ask them. But there might be other grocery stores we should be going to where we would encounter people who either are shoppers from Oceano or who are people who are likely to be visiting Oceano. Do you
Great.
have any suggestions?
The Vaughns on Grand.
Okay, that's great. That's really helpful.
I would also say Smart and Final and possibly, what's that new one? Aldi's.
Okay, that's great. We go other kinds of places too. So grocery stores are great. And other places that you tend to see people gather. We often go ask restaurants and other kinds of businesses if we can locate outside those businesses. We go to laundromats. We'll go where people are. Parks. We of course know about the community park in Oceano, but we're interested in parks that other people might use.
The post office
Great.
in Oceano.
Okay.
If the Friends restaurant or the burger place, the Sylvester's burger, or at the church in Oceano.
Yeah, we're planning on contacting the faith-based organizations to see if we can visit the churches. I gather there are several, right, in Oceano that are
Mhm.
used.
There's at least
And then
4.
I don't know, do people visit other, like, are you aware, does the Oceano community visit like other churches outside or outside Oceano in a significant way? That would be good to know.
Yeah, that would be maybe St. Patrick's Church. Many people go there.
I think this also, well, anyway, yeah. So yeah, great suggestions. Anything else you would suggest?
A lot
I've
of
got
people
it,
go to the Elks Club in Oceano.
The Elks Club. Okay, that's great.
There's an Eagles Club.
Okay, perfect.
What
Aline,
about-
I think I saw you making a suggestion maybe.
I had my hand up before that.
Oh.
And I just wanted to kind of piggyback on the doctor's comment that, yeah, we are part of the 5 cities. And the reason that I am so passionate about this project is because we need to be on par with the 5 cities. We don't have sidewalks in Oceano. We don't have enough, we turn into Puddle City, USA when there's storms. We don't have enough businesses like Arroyo Grande and Grover Beach. We're almost like a sacrifice zone. so if we could look like the rest of the 5 cities, like Grover Beach and Arroyo Grande, I think that will we can all rise up together. So that's my opinion. Yes, we are part of the 5 cities, and we're a coastal town. We have the beautiful Oceano dunes, and we need to take pride in our community and lift up our community and have our community be all that it can be.
I've got a couple ideas. So can you hear me okay?
Yes, great.
So Pier Street Deli on Pier Street, it's a great little, locally owned place, phenomenal burgers. They're the neatest people. So they can connect you with a lot of, I know that they go to the same church as my mother who lives in Oceano. It's in Grover, or it might even be in AG, but regardless, they're very friendly. I would go there. Then the new owners of the old candy store, they're starting to do something there. And then Aline, don't you guys do cleanups? Like, could you give the dates of when you do like the community cleanups on the beach? And sometimes don't you do
Yes.
like alleys and stuff? I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I think I also see that, Jolene, have you raised your hand too?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
One of the places that I would say we should really look at, polling people would be the community health centers. Like, because Oceano is predominantly lower income, and that's where people go for healthcare.
I think I see Lynn's hand up. And then also Nick, I don't know if you intended to have your digital hand raised, but you're up too. So Lynn, why don't we take you first? Oh, I think you're muted. I'm gonna,
Okay,
there you
I'm
go.
back. Yes,
Great,
sorry.
thank you.
But I have kind of made some slight contacts for like the parking lot at the Melodrama, thinking about bringing in food trucks and doing a farmer's market and selling. People just really not bringing other vendors in, just the Oceano people to come in. And it's basically for Oceano, but other people will come and, could have mariachi bands and whatever kind of, other stuff we could pull together. And I mean, if you're talking about getting surveys and doing things like that, that could be a really good place to have that happen. And it's a community center, if you will. So just an idea.
Oh, no, thank you. We appreciate the offer. It sounds like you're offering to host us maybe when you're normally busy.
Well, we have to have room in the parking lot, so it has to be when we don't have shows, but that could be on a Saturday, it could be on a Friday. It's doable.
Okay, so that's great. You can just let us know. And in fact, that invitation goes out to everyone. Anybody who's willing to host us at somewhere where there are a lot of people.
And what you're trying to do is we're trying to bring in people from all over into Oceano to mix with us, correct?
Sure. We're interested in speaking to Oceano folks as well as people from outside the community. Yeah, absolutely.
Lynn, I think the food truck idea is fabulous. It's a really good idea. Yeah, and you can get, the local people to bring their food and bring even more locals in.
Right.
That sounds great.
Make it a really nice affair,
Absolutely. That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're going to put one of my Vaishnavi is going to put we have a new Gmail address where you can reach us. It's named after, we've named our project Shape Oceano's Future. And so it's at shapeoceanosfuture@gmail.com. Vaishnavi, if you could put that in the chat area for everyone, that would be great. So that if you all think of ideas later, you can certainly email it to us. And then I see Nick and Aline.
No, my hand's supposed to be down.
Okay.
So much of what has been talked about so far is people to people, person to person, a lot of interaction between individuals, which is wonderful. And that's exactly what we want to see. But the challenge that I don't have a suggestion. What I have right now is really a question to put to the students and to the members of the committee about the pandemic and how we go about addressing this and what thought, if any, the students have had at this point. And I realize that it's early on in the process in connection with addressing this important challenge.
Do you want to hear from us first, Nick, then, or?
Yes, I'd like to hear from the students first. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, folks, jump in.
I'll jump in, I guess. So we are planning on having the survey be available online, so you definitely don't need to take it in person. In addition, I expect we're probably going to have outreach that we're going to have also online. I know one thing we talked about, whereas interviews as well as focus groups, those can all be done online. So we do want to be very mindful of the pandemic and what's happening. So yeah, we would love to have suggestions of other ways to remote engage with people, but those are some preliminary ideas that we have for remote engagement.
And also, I think we want to add that we can also engage with people safely. So our plan is to, be masked, offer masks to people, maintain the proper distance, make sure people are comfortable talking to us. We've been in touch with the public health department. I'm actually meeting with them tomorrow to talk about things we can do with them, because obviously they're practicing safely. We're going to plan to leave surveys in different places that are with pre-addressed and stamped envelopes so that people can easily fill out those surveys and mail them back to us. So we'll be doing quite a bit of that. I think we have a budget for, I want to say over 700 of those to be distributed in the community in different places. So if you're a place where a lot of people visit and you could help us, if you're willing to have those surveys there and maybe encourage people to take them. For instance, the community health center, we obviously do that sometimes through the community health center. I think Head Start's going to do that for us. We're probably going to try to do that with the food bank. So any suggestions you have about where we might leave surveys for people to fill out and to send back, that would be helpful too. Speaking with a lot of people who work and are from Latino communities, that is often a useful method, is the pre-stamped, pre-addressed envelope, so that people can fill things out at their leisure when they have a chance.
Okay, can we hear from the committee now? Anybody would like to speak up in connection with how to address the pandemic issue? Any suggestions?
Anybody willing to offer their place of business as a place where we can leave surveys? If you are, either email us at shapeoceanosfuture@gmail.com or just let us know in the chat area too. If you're willing to do that, we'll obviously be keeping track of chat.
And let me just add to that last note, don't forget that we have a public comments page on the OEDC website and also email for any suggestions that come to mind after the meeting today. Thanks.
I guess we'll move on unless we have any final, I'm looking for hands, either physically hands raised or, Robin, do you see any hands raised?
I've got a question.
Oh, sure.
Do you want to give these to the churches? I mean, do you want to have people, we can find the, the right source to give to churches, and that would probably have a good return, I would bet.
That would be really helpful. And you could, in fact, if we could be given contacts at the churches, we can not only pass surveys on to them, but we can offer to visit if they're willing to let us. So anybody who has a contact at either an organization or a church or another religious, institution, let us know, please. They're really so helpful usually in getting the word out. Yeah.
What about getting to the schools to send home with the kids?
Yeah, I'm speaking a lot, so I want my students to speak up here.
Christina Casillas has her hand up.
Okay, great. Engagement team, do you want to address what we're planning to do with the schools?
Yeah, I think that empowering children in Oceano and getting them engaged in the planning process is very uplifting and an act of self-determination. So we really want to ensure that we are advocating for children as well and giving them the opportunity to participate in the planning process. I think we'd like to potentially do some sort of focus group with kids particularly. I think that the beauty of children, especially in the planning process, is that they're so unencumbered and they don't think about things in the way that we typically do, and they are very honest. And I am hopeful and confident that they will have a lot of really great input to give us. So if there's any suggestions that you folks might have, or anybody that you have established a relationship with that could help us in facilitating that, that would be really greatly appreciated.
We've worked with Oceano Elementary before in the program, as well as Arroyo Grande High School. And so, but my contacts there are a little bit old. So if you know any teachers that we could contact, that's always a good, or principals, vice principals, that's always a good place to start. I see a hand. So let's have one last suggestion, and then I think we're not going to get to everything on the agenda if we don't move forward. So again, I just want to remind people of how they can contact us at the website that's been, or I'm sorry, at the Gmail that's been listed in the chat. So I see, is it Christina?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
I was just wondering why we want input from outsiders, just like somebody said in the chat, that when other projects have been done, the residents of the town were the ones that were asked for their opinion. I mean, they're the ones that have the vested interest. They're the ones that should have a say in their community. I don't understand why outsiders, I mean, their opinion is nice, but I don't know why we need it if, you know, I just don't understand that part.
Yeah, this is David. I spoke earlier. I suppose it depends on what you mean by outsiders. If you're talking about people from Orlando, Florida, I would say they don't have much of an interest here. Fresno was mentioned. I personally am not sure they have, as much involvement, but maybe they do. Tons go to the dunes for recreation. If you're talking about the 5 cities, I would say they have a lot of interest in this. And then I would, go back to the story about closing Arroyo Grande Hospital, but refusing to let anybody from the 5 cities talk about it unless you are within the bounds of Arroyo Grande City, because it's going to affect us all. So that's what I would say.
But a hospital serves everyone. We're not serving everyone. We're just serving for ourselves, and then from there serving everyone. We need to start with ourselves first and then go from there.
Well,
because
understood,
we don't have a state, we can't, Oceano doesn't go and say what we think for Grover or Arroyo or the other 4 cities. We don't have input on what they do for themselves.
Well,
But you know what, I think I'm going to just inject here for a second, just because we want to get to the issues section. Let me just say something really quickly, which is, one, we track everybody we talk to, especially with the survey. So we know who's from inside, who's a resident, who's not a resident. And so that will be reported, and it's really up to the community to decide, who they want to listen to ultimately. Finally, an example of a reason to listen to people from outside the community is tourism is often an important business in coastal communities. And so knowing what tourists want is important. So that's like an example of why you would listen or want to hear from people from outside the community. But if we could, please feel free to put your comments in the chat area and we'll know about those, or contact us. I would like to move on to the issues section. Nicole, I think we're going to skip the stakeholders list because it's really categories. Maybe David, you could just put that list up there really quickly and show people how we're thinking about the categories of people we need to talk to. But I think we need to move quickly onto the issues section if we want to give people a chance to talk about issues. So David, why don't you go ahead and put the presentation back up, and we'll just show you quickly. We have categories of stakeholders. I think maybe Nick Alter asked you to look at those categories as part of his email to all of you. They're listed on the website, on the OEDC website. And so this is also how we think about people, like making sure we're covering categories. So if you could go ahead and show those categories, that would be great, David. I think that's the next slide. So these are just different groups that we're thinking about. They're listed on the OEDC website. We'll have it eventually on our website so that you can comment on those. And maybe you could add comments when we get to the issues section as well. But I would like to move on to the issues discussion because we really want to know what you think is important that's going on in Oceano. And we're sort of, getting close to, the end of the meeting. Because we promised to get you all out of here by 7 or, about an hour after we started. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and move on to the issues section, and students, I'm going to ask you to move rather quickly through this section so that we can get to hearing from people, at least leave 5 minutes that we can meet with people and hear what they think about the issues.
Great. So in the interest of brevity, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. So I apologize if I'm just briefly doing an overview, but we've identified a number of strengths and some issues and a number of opportunities in Oceano. And I think that understanding the strengths, issues, and opportunities is integral to shaping the community's future. And it's clear that Oceano residents take great pride in and have a passion for their community, which is a strength that we have recognized in our preliminary research and during our site visit. Also, we have recognized that diversity in Oceano and diversity of community members is a strength as well, and we want to leverage it as such. It's a very important element of Oceano's character, as is its history and its natural resources. So integrating all of these strengths into a stronger whole is definitely a goal of all of the teams. Next slide, please. On the flip side, for every strength, there will be some issues. And from our conversations that we've had with OEDC and the other locals that we've had the privilege of speaking with thus far, it's clear that a lack of investment from the county is a pressing issue in Oceano. We have also perceived some uncertainty regarding the status of the dunes, the future of the dunes, and what that will look like. And it's been communicated to us that there has consistently been an underrepresentation of the Latino community in the planning process and in the public engagement process, which we are eager to remediate. And some of these underlying social issues have manifested in, conditions of curbs, gutters, and sidewalks that are otherwise inadequate and not on par with the surrounding area. So it's important to note that this is just a jumping off point for us, and we are really eager to hear what perspectives community members have and to help us better suss out what the strengths, issues, and opportunities are, which brings me to the next slide, please. There are a number of opportunities in Oceano that we foresee for Oceano's future that will play an integral role in shaping the future of the community. We foresee opportunities for Pier Avenue in downtown. That might look like more development or introducing new small businesses, particularly businesses that meet the needs of the local population along that corridor. We also foresee opportunities for tourism and for the beaches. Part of the allure of living on the Central Coast is that it is in fact a coast. So really utilizing that as an opportunity to bring in tourism to the community. Also, as I mentioned before, equitable community engagement. Just having you all here today is a great step in the right direction, and we are really excited to see what the engagement process looks like in the future. And that will ultimately inform our action plan. And I mean, I can't say it enough. We are very excited and very eager and very privileged to have this opportunity to work with you all. So thank you again and again and again. Next slide, please. We've also identified strengths, issues, and opportunities specific to the subject matter of our chapter teams. So I'm going to speak on behalf of my team, the community committee. The strengths that we've identified are existing recreational opportunities, which include the Oceano Memorial Park and the community center, as well as historic preservation like the Melodrama and the train depot. Next slide, please. To echo a point that I made earlier, we have heard that there is an underrepresentation of the Latino community and community programming specifically. That includes access to certain social services, access to medical programs, access to different things like that. And similarly, there's a lack of investment from the county, which has also perpetuated inequitable access to programs and social services, which we would like to work through with you all. Additionally, in terms of opportunities that we foresee for Oceano as a chapter team, diversity and cross-cultural engagement is very important to us, and it is very valuable to us. And we foresee that as an opportunity in working with you all and working with the residents. Also, development of culturally reflective spaces along Pier Avenue in downtown. We want to ensure that every new development introduced to Oceano reflects the culture of its community. And yes, again, I can't reiterate it enough. Please let us know and give us your input. And we are really happy to hear from you. And I will pass it on to the next team.
Actually, it is 7. So I am going to suggest that anybody who wants to stay on later can stay on, and the students will go through the rest of their issues presentation. And we will also ask Nick Alter if he can get these slides available on the website so you can comment on them. We'll put them on our website as soon as we have one, but I'd like to go ahead and just open it up to everyone to see if you want to go ahead and identify issues, because I know some of you may need to go and we want to respect your time. Lynn, I see you. If you could go ahead. Yeah, thank you. Lynn, you're muted.
In terms, I mean, I've been on revitalization committees and with the county and other ones and this and that and the other thing. So I think that's correct. They had so much money and they to talk and do whatever they do. And then that either the money goes away or they can't find it, or I don't know what happens, but then those things go away. But I do think that in this process, and now, I mean, Oceano is one of the low income communities. There's tons of financial money available federally, and especially now after the pandemic. So how are we working with the county, with Lynn Compton, I mean, this project can't go on its own. I don't think.
So I think, well, first of all, I think there might be there's information. So that's a long discussion to have, and
it sure is. It's a very long,
I totally,
we don't need to discuss it. It just needs to be thrown into the pot.
That's right. And I think we will definitely return next meeting on the first Wednesday of December, and we'll have an answer for you about how we would approach that. Absolutely. Okay. Super important. Like, what's the point of doing these plans if something doesn't get done? So we're right there with you on that.
Thank you. Okay.
Other issues? Let's see, and Robin, jump in here if you see any hands up. You're also welcome to put them in the chat area if you'd like to do that.
And Kelly, this is Doreen. It is almost 7:05.
Yeah.
So I wasn't quite sure if people who might need to leave, and then you want to continue on with the discussion.
Yeah.
Right. And the next meeting for anyone who's leaving would be December the 1st, Wednesday, December the 1st at the same time.
Great.
Okay.
And yeah, let me say before any of you need to leave or want to leave, if you want to email us, we'll send you a PDF of our presentation so you can actually see it and respond to it too. There are a lot of ways for us to get you those issues, but we can go ahead. We're willing to, we would like to stay and go ahead and go through the issues if for those of you who can stay. I think we probably have about 5 minutes to 7 minutes more of issues to discuss.
Charles Barney has his hand raised.
Okay, go ahead.
Lynn, thank you for your point. I think it's just so critical in the history of our community. Thankfully, the San Luis Obispo Council of Governments on December 8th is going to vote on whether to award $1.7 million to Oceano to kick off the revitalization downtown program, to do major revisions on the intersections down there and get crosswalks on Highway 1. So that's something, just because we're all interested in Oceano here, that you could put on your calendars and send a letter, whichever way you felt about that, to SLOCOG. And contact me if you want more information about that. Thank you.
Okay, shall we go ahead with the rest of the issues, or do we have additional comments? I don't see any extra hands.
I saw that one of the issues is that the Latinx community is not involved in this process, and I think that they're not involved is because the way that they're being approached, and at the same time is because we have been getting the surveys so many times, year after years, and never happened. So having these surveys on restaurants and places, it might not be actually a really good way for people to say, oh, I'm going to the restaurant and I'm going to take a minute to fill out the survey. They actually need more interaction to do it. Probably if they're at the church and the priest say, like, okay, please, before you leave, just do it. And we will be collecting it. It might be, for example, it would be a better way to do it. But if you put the surveys in a Mexican restaurant or something, you're not going to get the answers, or it might not be as successful as you think it might be. I hear somebody mentioning about the food truck. I think it's a really great idea to pull people, to bring people in and show up. I think for the Latinx community, having those gathering places where they have food, child care, or activities for the kids, they are going to have the time, or they're going to make the time while the kids are playing or doing any activity. They are going to fill up the surveys. But at the same time, all these meetings are in English. Like I said, low income, they don't have, sometimes if they do have a smartphone, but they don't know how to use the technology. So having these surveys through Zoom, it might not be as efficient either. So I'm guessing, like, maybe do a door-to-door canvassing, or maybe go to the community and just reach out to them and be there outside of the businesses a couple hours a day to see if they're available to answer those surveys, and be with them while they're answering. And if they have questions about a specific question, they can be able, like, what do you mean this, that you mean this? And so they will be able to answer. That's my point of view, as because I'm a Latina and I understand my own community, and I live in Oceano, and I think that's why they're not as involved. And these meetings are in English. Most of the residents are not bilingual. So that's probably another reason why they're not involved.
So yeah, I completely agree with you. And we did mention the surveys, I think, because someone brought up a question, those kind of mail-in surveys, but we have scheduled to do 250 door-to-door surveys. So we're going to hit every way possible to do surveys, and absolutely, we understand it's not the Latino community's responsibility to find us. It's our responsibility to go out to them, just like it is anybody in the community. And that's what we intend to do. And so we have, we'd love to talk over our full plan with you. We are planning to go door to door because that is the most effective way, absolutely, from what we've heard. So absolutely. That's why we have translators. We've hired translators. That's why we have Daisy Miranda translating on Facebook Live this meeting. And we have translators who are going to be going out with every student door to door. So yeah, absolutely. Important comments. Thank you so much.
Lynn has her hand up.
Yeah. Kelly, Aline has her hand up.
I do. I just have, am I there?
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
I just have a comment to kind of add on. What she said about the Latino, she is a part of the community. People don't understand. She's absolutely right. I would like to see a team of committed Latinas to kind of be sort of team members that can help to do the door-to-door, that do speak Spanish, and that they live there. That, to me, if they live there, they're much more credible than just a translator coming in. That would mean more to me. They are the ones who are going to help knit the community for more valid information and more honest information.
Well, our door is open to anybody who's willing to help us. The university can really only fund paying for students to do work, but I know
we need
that,
to ask for volunteers.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, and I know how hard it is for people to volunteer, but we will take all the volunteers that are willing to help us, and they can just help us a little if we have enough, you know.
Absolutely.
People can
hey,
help.
Anything is better than nothing.
Exactly.
A little's good. Little's good.
Yeah. An hour is
an hour. I agree. Thank
And
you.
You can ask the Rotary groups around here to volunteer. I mean, that's what they're there for. All of those nonprofit groups that are out there to help.
Absolutely. We will be knocking on their door. Thanks for that suggestion. Did I see was there another hand, Robin, that you noticed, or?
No. Aline had hers up, but she's lowered it.
Oh, okay. Aline, did you mean to lower your hand?
No, I just don't want to take up too much time, but I just wanted to echo what one of the other people said, that we have been studied to death. There's been, like, throughout the decades, so many studies, so many promises, that people are very cynical, especially the Latino community, because they focused in the past on the Latino community, and then nothing came of it. So we really do need to let them know that this time it's going to be different, and that their opinions are going to be taken seriously, and that we are going to unite as a community and take action. Take action this time, because, you know, that's one of the reasons that there isn't as many Latinos involved in going to meetings. Not the ones that don't have the language barriers think I'm crazy to even think that they're going to do anything, that there's going to be any change in Oceano. And I've had several people tell me in my face, are you crazy? It's a waste of time. They've promised in the past and they never follow through. There's never time. Oceano's never a priority. There's no monies.
I don't know, Nick, if you want to comment on this, about this issue of the power of outreach and the plan, or not.
You read my mind. And picking up on what Aline is saying, the very reason for the OEDC being, I mean, it is our raison d'etre, our reason for being, is to advance this initiative to the county. This is why we are, this is why we formed the council. And we can only do this, we can only succeed if this initiative is regional and not simply Oceano. Getting back to Christina's earlier comments, which I understand, Christina, there is reason to find allies in the county who can become champions for Oceano, and to bring this process into the light regionally, so that it gets the attention and support it has to have if it's going to make a difference with the Board of Supervisors, with the county. So again, this is the whole idea behind the OEDC is to cross the finish line with this project. Always we're thinking in terms of how we can advance this in the county. So anyway, thanks, Kelly, for giving me that shot.
Yeah, and I think, thank you. And I just wanted to say one thing, which is that, you know, we've been reviewing the plans that have been created for this community. And I would say that maybe you've been planned to death. I don't know if you've been asked as much as planned. Because when I look at those plans and I look at the descriptions in those plans of who participated and whose voices were heard, I don't see a lot of results from the Latino community or the community at large. I don't see any gigantic surveys being reported. I see workshops with a few people, maybe 30 people in them. And not that those aren't valuable, but those aren't as representative of the community as seeing if we can get, you know, several hundred surveys that are we can claim that we know statistically are representative of the community, because that will have power. I really do believe in the power of representative, voices. And it's much harder to ignore, I think, if you're having worked on the other side. It's much harder to ignore if you're a politician or even somebody who works for a county. When you have a plan that really is supported by a representative part of the population and comes from that population, and that's what we intend.
And just to add to that, the 300 household target that was mentioned at the beginning of the presentation represents 10% of the population. It takes a minimum of 10%, is what we're estimating at OEDC, to get that kind of political support to advance this initiative, where the board will listen and respond. They can't, it'll be very difficult for elected officials to ignore that kind of outpouring of community expression. Thanks.
So it's about, oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you were going to proceed on with the next issue, it doesn't look like anyone else has their hands up.
I think it depends on if people do want to. I don't want people to feel like they have to stay around, to be polite. Maybe you could let us know if all of you know how to react. With the reactions down below, there's a reactions tab. You can give a thumbs up if you would like us to continue with our issues identification. And if there, certainly if there are several of you, will stay.
Yeah. You actually, Kelly, have 30 people that are still participating. So
okay,
quite a few people that are still here.
Okay, well, let's go ahead. And if you feel you need to leave, absolutely feel free to do that. Okay, so why don't we go back? David, if you could put up the slides. I think we were about to go to the next team.
Hello again, I'm Michael. Thanks again for all your participation and opinions that you've been giving us. It's been really helpful. So ours is, again, housing, economy, and food access group. Some strengths we identified were the current local businesses. It's really great to have representatives from Chachos and Melodrama here with us tonight. We know those are really important cultural institutions in the area and gathering places for the community, points of pride. Another strength we identified were strong ties to agriculture and farm fresh foods close by, and then also beach tourism. Next slide. So for our group, some of the issues and concerns we had identified for Oceano were access to good paying jobs, opportunities for new small businesses in the area, specifically along Highway 1 and Pier Avenue, choice in housing for residents, and access to healthy food options for residents. And then opportunities, as previously mentioned, we're thinking there were some opportunities along Pier Avenue and Highway 1 for further small businesses to go in, and then immediate access to agricultural resources both within the city and adjacent to the community.
Hi, everyone. This is Connor again. My group is Visnavi, Margot, Alex, and myself, and we represent the Complete Neighborhoods and Mobility. We see the strengths in Oceano as it has a great coastal community character. Central Coast is very unique, but Oceano itself is even more unique. We see that the abundance of single-family residences gives people a lot of space to spread out in Oceano. And there are great community destinations that are existing. The dunes, the Melodrama, the train depot. There's a great community park. There's the creek area. So there are a lot of really nice areas in Oceano that we see as major strengths. Next slide, please. The issues, though, that we see are, the physical barriers that Oceano has. And by physical barriers, I mean not like walls, but Route 1, the Union Pacific train tracks, 101 is not necessarily in Oceano, but again, it is a barrier. There's also the lack of sidewalks, curbs, and gutters. So as you can see from the photo, this is Oceano. There are no sidewalks, so it makes it not a great place to walk, and it is a very walkable community. There are also vacant lots that we can capitalize on for multifamily housing. Opportunities, pedestrian-oriented improvements, again, with sidewalks, connecting over the physical barriers like Union Pacific Railroad and Route 1. Establishing a historic and cultural core. There are a lot of historic sites in Oceano that we'd like to capitalize on. Community design standards, making sure that you have a beautiful place to live, and then also connection to the beach. So we see Pier Avenue as really the route to the beach, and we would love to be able to capitalize on that for the community of Oceano. And I'll pass it off to the next group, which is environment and sustainability.
Thank you, Connor. So, hi everyone again. I'm David, and along with Nicole and Sadie, we're the environment and sustainability team. And a couple of the top environmental strengths we've identified in relation to human health in Oceano are the abundance of natural resources, as well as the proximity to the dunes, ocean, and other incredible outdoor recreation activities. Oceano is incredibly lucky to be a stone's throw from one of the most beautiful places on the California coast, which I'm sure is no secret to you all. No matter your opinion on how the dunes are used, we can all agree that it's iconic and beautiful and an incredible treasure for all of us. The top issues we're looking to address are air quality, flooding, and access to the dunes. Regarding access, we mean on our site visit, we were able to see how difficult it was for pedestrians specifically, or people on bikes to get to the dunes or get to areas where they could hike or enjoy the beach. And we think especially pedestrian access for residents and visitors and kids or people who can't drive is really important. It's something that we need to take into account, especially when it comes to enjoying the outdoors and using the outdoors as health and mental health, physical health, however you're using it. It's just good for people to be outside no matter what. And for opportunities, some of the initial opportunities we've been thinking about are those connections between the natural spaces that are currently existing in Oceano, such as the park and the nearby lagoons. When we visited the park, oops, where'd it go? Sorry about that. When we visited the park, there was, the lagoon was right there, but it seemed like they were kind of disconnected and there was a road in between them, but we found the lagoon to be a really interesting place to go check out, and just little things like that where there could be connections between some of these really interesting sort of natural spaces that people can enjoy and recreate. And also there's potential for new park locations that could increase access to parks, and along with the planting of trees and other plants, there are a lot of opportunities for Oceano to benefit from a healthier and greener community. And that's something potentially we'd like to talk to the community more about what specifically they'd like to see. But just from our perspective, having visited, those are some things that stood out for us. And I believe that's all of our presentations. And we just have a little reminder about, you can contact us about anything, if anything comes up to you that you didn't think of during this or didn't feel like speaking up or typing in the chat. Just feel free to email us and let us know your opinions. And we'd love to hear from you. That's what this is all about.
So one of the things we want to emphasize is that we're looking, as students have emphasized, we're looking for your thoughts about all of this, and anything we've brought up as an opportunity. Even we want to be clear, we're doing this very tentatively. Like we haven't reached any conclusions about what needs to be done. That's what we're, eventually we will reach conclusions based on what we hear from people and of course our students' assessment of things. So we just want to emphasize that what you're seeing there is are things that we're beginning to see, but we're unsure about, and we're checking with you about them as we continue to do research. What we were going to do was divide the participants up into smaller groups and have you grouped with some of the students and give you a chance to talk to them a little bit more specifically about anything you want to talk to them about, particularly, for instance, issues, strengths, and opportunities. And rather than having like a big gigantic discussion where people have to, wait their turn, etc. So maybe you could let me know using your reactions if you'd be interested in doing that, or we can just I'll stay here and have a big discussion. So if you could let me know if you're interested in breaking into smaller rooms and meeting some students and talking to them for maybe 5 minutes, that would be helpful to know. Or just put your thumb up so that you don't have to figure out the reactions. You can just put your thumb up. Okay, I'm seeing thumbs. I'm seeing thumbs. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and then divide you up really quickly. Students, I'll put you in different groups and have fun for 5 minutes and just have at the discussion. Any Spanish speakers here should stay in the main room. If you're a Spanish speaker, stay in the main room because we're going to use that as a breakout room for the Facebook Live people and any Spanish speakers. So here we go.